Welcome to today's episode of the GROUPEX podcast. I'm your host, Tony Zanardo. Today I'll be talking to Marlon Woods, Ambassador for Les Mills International. Feedback. Don't give feedback on the feedback. This is only one of the many topics that Marlon and I touch on. From body combat to body pump, we discuss what it's like being an ambassador for the world leader in GROUPEX. So grab your favourite beverage, sit back and enjoy the show. Marlon, welcome to the GROUPEX podcast, mate. It's good to see you.
Tony, what is going on, man? Nice to finally meet you, bro.
You too, man. You too. I've heard a lot about you and also followed what you're doing with social media, but it's nice to see you face to face and sit down and have a good chat to get to know you. So mate, I'm honoured that you said yes to come on the show as well.
For sure, man. Of course. Never doubt my mind that I would have said yes.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Let's kick it off then for our listeners. How did you get into the fitness industry, mate? Where did your journey begin?
So in terms of like getting into the fitness industry, actually, when I really think about it, like what actually happened, it was not as like destined as people may think it, given what I do and who I am today.
Yep.
I been playing sports since I was 4 years old. 4 or 5 years old was when I first started playing sports, and since I was a kid, for 4 seasons a year, you rotate through sports: basketball, football, soccer, baseball, track, but you just keep going. And so I've always been active. Played sports all the way up through my all 4 years of college. And when I graduated, I was working in DC, and I was like, well, who's going to do my workouts now? Like, I don't have a strength coach.
Yep.
I don't have practice. I don't have anything that I have to do. And I remember having this very visceral feeling of fear of uncertainty. I was like, well, what do normal people do for exercise? Like how do you, like, what do you do to work out? Because I've always been playing sports. And I think I was working in DC, so like life and work was hectic. I was tired all the time, and I was like, but I knew enough to know. I was like, if I don't go work out, I'm going to regret it.
Yep.
So I would do this thing for a few months where I go to the gym every like 2 to 3 weeks and just destroy myself. Wouldn't be able to walk for like 2 weeks. And then like every once in a while on a Saturday morning, I'll be like, I should run. And I'd go and like run 2 miles as fast as I could. Like, so I knew enough to know that fitness is something you have to regularly keep up with.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I moved back home, I was about to join the Army, and I started working at LA Fitness, this big gym chain in the States.
Yep.
I'm sure you know. And I just wanted a job to like tie me over until I left for the Army. And I was doing personal training sales, and I hate sales.
Yep.
Tony, I couldn't sleep at night. Like, I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, I got to go to work tomorrow and I got to sell something. And they'd be like, oh, there's only X amount of days left in the pay period, and I haven't sold any personal training packages. Terrifying. And one night I was talking with a trainer at the gym. He was like, you should be a personal trainer. And I'm like, I was like, I've always worked out. I was like, maybe I should try that. So I did a personal training. I did ISSA personal training cert.
Yep.
And that was 2012. That was 2012. And so I got my first client a few months later. Started training.
Excellent.
And so that's how I got into fitness in general. And went into the Army. When I joined the Army, I did a master fitness trainer course in the military. And while in the military, ended up opening a gym in the States with a really, really good friend of mine, a guy I was in the Army with. Our gym's going on year 6 now. And in the process of opening the gym, I was like, oh, you know what? I should really take this exercise stuff seriously. So I went and got a master's in exercise physiology. And that was right around the time when I came across like group fitness and Les Mills.
Yep.
And again, completely random. I was bodybuilding at the time. I had done bodybuilding, CrossFit, and I was trying to cut down for a show. And I was like, I wanted to find something else to do other than the Stairmaster because this damn Stairmaster is driving me crazy. I was like, I don't want to be on this anymore. I'm miserable. I don't want to walk on the treadmill at 50% incline. And I remember I was on the last treadmill, the one closest to the door, and the group fitness studio is the back of the gym. And I see these people in there. And I'd seen like people doing this class Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was body combat. And
Yep.
like two chicks would teach the class. There's like a bunch of old ladies in there, a few younger chicks. Like, not thinking anything of it. But that day, I got off the treadmill and I was like, went up to them after class and they're like, hey, I want to teach this class. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah. They were like, you want to teach this class? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I boxed for 10 years, did Muay Thai for 4, Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, like, I think I like, it's like a martial arts class. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I'm like, so what I got to do? And they're like, well, the first thing you need to do is come to a class.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's fine. Went to combat that Thursday, almost shit on myself. I was humbled immediately. But look, I'm a guy. I'm stubborn. I thought I was an alpha male. I'm like, I'm not walking out of this classroom.
Yeah.
I'm not taking no breaks.
Yeah.
I don't need no water. I'm fine. When I tell you that my bowels were moved, I was like struggling. It was combat 62. I was struggling not to literally shit on myself. I was like, as soon as the class got done, I went straight to the bathroom. I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's really hard. So then I went back the next week. Went back Tuesday. I signed up for training that next weekend.
After two classes.
Yeah. So I did 2 classes.
Yep.
What 2 classes went to training? Might have been 3 classes. My 2 or 3 classes and went to training. Went to training, and the good thing is I've always been very comfortable speaking.
Yep.
Comfortable on a microphone, like pep rallies, speeches, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like I've always been able, words come
confidence.
fine.
Yeah.
And I know a lot about martial arts. Know a lot about boxing, and I'm a quick learner. So like you tell me to learn something and I'll learn it, internalize it. I'm like, okay, cool. And I will do my absolute, I'm able to recall and remember and say things very well.
Yep.
So kind of like a combination of articulate things very well. So a combination of just my talents and abilities I had just happened to fit perfectly within Les Mills. And yeah, went to training. And I remember after training, and even when I first got the DVD, I was like, the master class. I remember looking, and it was one of the bigger films because I think they had just done. I can't remember why they were in that venue. I think it might have been around the same time they had done a big pump class somewhere. I don't know, or big pump filming. But I remember thinking man, they look really good up there. The synchronization was satisfying. All of them looking really good. The movements were clean. Dan was like this machine. I'm like, I want to look like that.
Yeah.
And so after initial training, I was working nights at the time when I was in the Army. And I was so obsessed with being as perfect as I could be. I would get off work at 7 a.m. I'd come home, I'd try and sleep, and I'd just go to the gym. And I would go to the gym, and for hours, I would just do combat in the mirror. I would do combat, record myself, watch the video back, look at the video next to the master class, and say, okay, I need to fix this and this and this. So I'll work on this first. I'd go back in the mirror, I'd fix it, go to the next thing, fix it, the next thing, fix it, the next thing, fix it. I did that for all the way up until I got certified, and then pretty much all the way up until the end of that year. So probably about 7 months straight.
Jesus.
Almost every day of the week.
Yeah.
I would be in the mirror, and I would be in the mirror record myself. I did that for fun. I would get up on Sunday mornings. I would go to the gym. I would pick 20, 30, 40 combat tracks and put them on shuffle.
Yeah.
And I'd put the camera on record, and I would just do them, and I would critique myself. And I critique myself what it looked like in the beginning, what I look like when I'm tired. How did I feel when I was tired, and how did the moves feel versus how they looked? And I know if they feel like this, they actually look like this. So I need to work this much harder to make them look like that. Like it was,
That's intense.
it, it's intense, and it's part of, like, I know this is kind of going into something else, but like it's part of the reason, like when I first came on like the international scene, and people would say stuff like, "Oh, like what's he doing here? Like he came out of nowhere, and he hasn't been teaching long." And they just say people always see the end result,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
like nobody sees like the
Behind
like
the scenes, everything that went
day, the
into.
weeks,
Yeah.
the months of like not. I wasn't with friends. I wasn't like in a group. It was me in the mirror by myself, recording myself, giving myself video feedback before I even knew what feedback was. I didn't know what a team was. I didn't know what a presenter was. I didn't know what filming was. I was
You
doing
just
that
knew you wanted to
because,
look like that and be
yeah, I
that.
just knew like when I taught class on Tuesday and Thursday night in
Yep.
Augusta, Georgia, I wanted to be as good as possible, not
Yeah.
compared to anyone else
Yeah.
except me.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. Mate, that's huge. That's dedication.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, big
massive
time. Yeah,
dedication.
big time.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of instructors that'll probably hate me for saying that, but the ones I know here in Australia, I don't believe anyone's at that level of dedication to do
No one
what
I
you've.
know.
No, man, that's
No,
massive.
no one. And look, I'm very candid about that. Like I get asked, one of the questions I get asked the most is, how do I want to get on the team? How do I get on the team?
Yeah, yep,
And one of the first thing I ask people, the first thing I tell people, I'm like, okay, cool. Film yourself teaching 3 tracks and send it to me.
yeah. No
If I
one does.
if 20 if 20 people ask, one person might.
Yeah,
And it's like you have to you wanting to do it for the sake of wanting to do it just isn't enough.
yeah,
And look, you know what? Let's keep it real. All right, let's keep it real. Not everyone who was on every team in the world has even done that much.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
There are, I'm not criticizing or judging anybody, but the bottom line is is that level of dedication required to get on a team or to get on or to be a national master trainer? Honestly,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
But for me to be as good as I am, that's what was required.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
so it's something I am not shy about, and I pull no punches. Like when people ask about, I'm like, if you want it to look like this,
yeah.
you got like
It's a
it's a
level.
lot more
It's a
work
level of
than that.
self-discipline that
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's huge, mate. Thank you for sharing that, because that's an insight into you as a person, but also I think as you're saying, anyone that's really asking for feedback, they've got to do the hard work. You've got to do the
Yeah,
hard work in order to get there. These days, it's
yeah,
not just oh, you know what? Hey, Marlon, you and I are mates. Can I get on the team? Yeah,
yeah,
which
exactly.
let's be realistic. 20 years ago, you sort of had to know someone, and you were invited in that sort of way. It
Yep,
doesn't.
sure
It's
did.
and
Yeah,
that's not disrespecting what was done in the old days. That was just
no,
the
of
way it
course not.
was, because it was, hey, yeah, you look good, you're a mate, yeah, come on, let's do this. Jump on
Yeah,
and do it. And
yep,
now with the evolution of the program, everything has evolved. There's boot camps you've got to go through. There's all that kind of stuff just to be
yeah,
a trainer and a presenter here in Australia. But that's, mate. Thank you for sharing that, because that's big. It's an insight to, as I said before, to you, but also for instructors to understand. This is the GROUPEX podcast.
I think it's important. I think it's important, especially for instructors, to know that whatever program you do, whether it's Les Mills, Barry's Boot Camp, Soul Cycle,
Yeah.
like whatever it is,
Yep.
I think it's important for people to know that, because it puts into perspective. To be honest, there are probably a lot more people who could be on teams, but when they get to that first set of feedback,
Yep.
when they have to look at themselves for that first time in the mirror, video doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And when you got it, let me tell you something. There's nothing more humbling than thinking you're the man, thinking you're
Yeah.
looking good, and you record yourself,
Yeah.
and you're like, that is not. It did not feel like that when I was doing it, and
Yep.
even Tony, even when I watch more so combat than pump, even when I watch master classes, I'm like, damn, I was working so hard. I was like, but it doesn't look
Nope.
like
Yeah.
I'm working anywhere near. And so for me, because the master class is different, like you want to evoke a certain type of emotion.
Yep.
So when I watch it, I might be working hard, but it doesn't look like it. So I'm like, okay, I need to work 15-20% harder.
Harder.
So it looks like
Yeah.
I'm working
Yep.
that shows up on the camera.
Yep.
But it's the constant. So many, there's probably 20-30% more people who would have opportunities to present if they weren't so taken aback, confronted, or put off
Yep.
by getting feedback.
Yep.
Like and look, you've been around long enough to know feedback is, even though it's meant to be constructive and positive,
Yep.
it is certainly become an opportunity for people to tear you down sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you get it from the wrong person, it could
Yes.
really send you down a dark
Yeah.
path for
Yeah.
sure. But if you can separate the feedback from the person delivering it
Yep.
and just take it for what it is, like just these essential things that are about your performance, not
Yes.
about you as a person.
Yeah.
It's the
Yep.
That's the answer key.
Yeah.
That's the answer key. And
Yep.
anybody can give you something. They don't even have to teach the program. They don't even
Yes.
have to be a presenter. But
Yep.
it's like, how did this make you feel?
Yeah.
Like, and if you can use that and understand what to take and leave,
Yep.
it can really help.
Yeah. I think there's two things on that. One is knowing how to deliver feedback, but also knowing how to receive feedback.
Yes.
Yeah. It's if you're asking someone for feedback, make sure the person you're asking for feedback for is able to deliver feedback. They're not just going to be your friend that says, "Yeah, man, you were great." Mate, go and talk to your mum if you want to find out you're great. Go and have a chat to her because she's going to tell you you're great. Yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
But if you're asking for feedback, make sure that you're able to accept the feedback you get and don't give feedback on the feedback.
100.
If that's
100%.
It's one thing that is a bugbear of mine that shits me to death is that if you ask for feedback and I give you feedback, don't argue with me about the feedback. I'm just giving you feedback for you to take on board however you want. What I saw, what I felt, giving you feedback. This is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and
even if you don't have to agree with all of it, but you just take the feedback. You say, "I asked you for it. Thank you so much for that."
Yeah.
And then you go away. You leave what you don't. You take what you need.
Yep.
Like it's, and that doesn't mean leave the bad, take the good.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean like anything that needs improvement. He's full of shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and take this. You know what I mean?
Marlon said I was good. This, and this. Cool. I'll take that. But he said I was bad at all these things. No, screw that. I'll just leave them over there.
Exactly.
No, I appreciate that. Hey, if I can backtrack for a second. How long were you in the Army for? Like how many years were you in?
5 years.
Is that minimum service that has to be done in the States? Or
minimum is 3.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
minimum is 3. So but with my minimum is 3, and so my training, because I was intelligence, my training was a huge portion of that.
Yep.
What was a larger portion than normal, so that extended my service as well. And then on the tail end, I kind of did I didn't really extend my service, but I kind of extended that a little bit because I was still doing military work, but I was working strategically, like at the NSA.
Yep.
And so it was kind of like a halfway point between in the Army and out of the Army, working as a civilian.
Yep.
So
makes sense.
Yeah, it was about 5 years.
Yep. So would you say that the discipline from the Army has helped with the way you present and teach, and the way the way you learn as well?
It definitely amplified it. I would say that I've always had a lot of discipline, and that's been in part, largely due to just playing sports my entire life. And the coaches and role models I had were very, tyrannical. Like it was like, do this because I say so, do this, then do this here. And a lot of us, we were just terrified to fail.
Yeah.
And so you were like, you got to do, and there's a lot of pressure on you to, me and, my peers we were a lot of first generation college, you like college people, and, these are going to be the first ones to go here in the family. And, everybody's like, oh, so-and-so's going off to college, he's going to graduate, he's going to get a good job. So it's like, you felt like you couldn't fail.
Yep.
So you really prioritized, like, people are going out and going to parties and, going to the beach stuff in the summers.
Yep.
And we're running routes, we're doing drills, we're trying to make sure we're ready to go so we can get a scholarship the next year. But the military, if my discipline was at a 6, 7, military sharpened it 100%. And was like, it kind of got me into this, I'm almost a little too disciplined to where I can't give myself the freedom to to not be on schedule sometimes.
Yep. No, I appreciate that. The reason I asked that as well is a lot of mates that I went to school with when we finished high school here, they went away to Army Reserves or joined the Army here.
Right. Yeah.
Start with the reserves for what I used to call them weekend warriors, and then they'd get into full time Army stuff. And I saw them evolve and grow, I suppose, and mature as young adults as well. And their discipline that the Army gave them to then help them with everything they've done in their lives. You know, it's so different to see, and I lost contact with some of them for 10 or 15 years, but to see those guys again now and you go, wow, you can tell that you've actually been in the defense. Yeah, you've been part of that. And it really does help, I think, with as I said, with everything that you do in life, when you have that type of discipline, and discipline is probably not even the right word that I'd use, but just that structure really does help.
Structure for sure.
Yeah.
It truly helps. And look, like it's, you know, there are going to be shitbags everywhere. You know, there are people who go into the Army and don't get anything from it. And there are people who don't go into the military who have plenty of structure. Like, but there absolutely is a benefit. I mean, I'll be honest and archaic here. Like when I got out of the Army, I was like, the U.S. needs to go to conscription, and everyone needs to serve at least 2 years in the military when they turn 18. Like, but that's because it did so much for me.
Yeah,
because it taught me so much, even about money. Like, you know, just about like life skills, life admin, and being an adult, and looking at a pay slip, and understanding taxes and healthcare, and like all this stuff, like, and owning a house, and it really grows you up. Quickly. Like it grows you up quickly. Like one of my better friends is this guy Wells that I was in the Army with. And when we were in the Army together, I tell him this all the time. I hated him. I'm like, you were lazy, you were undisciplined. He was like 18, 19 years old, a kid, and I went in late. I was like 24, 25 when I went in. And I'm like, you don't do anything right. You can't get nothing right. I can't trust you. And but seeing what the military did to him and for him and his family, like, you know, he has 3 kids now. You know, he's on his second house. Like, you know, he's making, you know, a bunch of money. You know, he's an intelligence analyst, and it's like, you know, can you get that from going to college? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like that type of acceleration, like due to the structure it gives you, because you I think you nailed it with that word. The structure makes things much more efficient, and it allows you to move further, faster in life, because of that structure.
How was then your module training? You've come from that background of the Army, or you've had that experience. How was initial module training for combat for you? I mean, you said you'd not done, choreography was obviously foreign. It wasn't something you'd seen before. Can you talk us through your initial module training? How was that experience for you?
It was because of the intensity I approach everything with. I went into training. I knew everybody's track. I knew everybody's previews. I knew everybody's cues. Like I knew I had tracks 5 and 6. I know what track 4 needed to do. I know what track 8 needed to do. Even to this day, I know that release by heart. Like, I'm talking about, when I say by heart, I mean, if you play it, I can recite what the presenters are saying. Like, and that's probably a lot of people, like for the initial training release. But like, I went into that, like, knowing, I was like, one thing I'm not going to be is unprepared. Like, proper prior plan prevents piss poor performance. Like, it
love that one.
Like, I will make sure that I know everything I need to. And what's funny is it's so full circle, because somebody asked me today, right now, you know, what's the most important key element? I say it's choreography. It's choreography. You got to know it like you got to know it like you know your name. And that's how I went in. That's how I went into my first module with. I would say the thing that was the most stressful for me, or the most nerve-wracking for me, was definitely lower body strikes, kicks and stuff, because I was upper body. I was boxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, like, does involve a lot of kicking, and I had really, really shitty hips, like, just like not open at all. and I was worried about how it would look. I was quite insecure about how it would look. Um, and even when I look back at videos, I'm like, I should have been insecure about my upper body strikes too, because they look terrible. Oh my goodness. I just watched the video the other day. I was like, I thought I was all that in the bag of chips.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, wow, everything is relative.
Yeah.
Everything is relative.
Well, now, if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. Where do you think that self-consciousness come from? I mean, I think we've all got it. Yeah, I think we're all
Yeah, for
self-conscious in some way. But and the reason I say that is that you come across to me as a very, very confident person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that, we've been chatting for what, 26 minutes. Yeah. That's what you come across as. But I know that, and everybody that I've chatted to, whether they're an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert, whatever, however you may look at that, everyone has something which they're like, oh no, I could have been better, or wow, I don't like that about myself. Where do you think that comes from?
So my confidence comes from my preparation.
Yep.
I am confident in my abilities because I know that I've put in the work, and I know that I can only be as good as I am.
Yep.
And you can control two things in life: effort and attitude. And I know I got the effort, and I know I have the attitude.
Yep.
Where the self-consciousness comes from is, even though I am confident in my abilities, I am also the pressure to succeed and to be this thing that people think I am, or thought I am
Yep.
in the past.
Yep.
Is just this debilitating terror of failing.
Yep.
Or of not being the best. And I've spoken about this a lot. Like, when you're growing up, people are like, oh, Marlon's going to be this, Marlon's going to be that, he's going to do this. Even in high school, Marlon's probably going to do this, he's going to be this, he's going to do that, he's going to the most likely to do this, most likely to do that.
Yep.
And so subconsciously, I always rated myself based on what I was achieving or not achieving.
Yep. Yep.
And so all throughout my life, there's been this, oh, like Marlon's really confident. Even like, oh, well, like Mike, oh, like even like, oh, Marlon's arrogant, which is actually a huge trigger for me, because that arrogance that people perceive is actually this intense fear of failing.
Yeah.
That's driving me to work as hard as I possibly can at everything I do.
Yeah.
So I want to be the best, not because I want to be better than you, but because I'm terrified of failing.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that makes so much sense, mate. It's
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
I think that's also a level of self-awareness that you know in yourself that, yeah, okay, there's people are expecting this, but I'm not doing it for them, I'm doing it for me. But I need to make sure that I'm hitting the mark, partly for them, but more so for what I'm trying to achieve. And if I'm not achieving it, why am I not achieving it? And I think, as you alluded to in the beginning, with looking at how many videos or classes you'd set up and go on and video yourself and critique yourself and look at all that kind of stuff, that's clear. It's very clear that you have a high expectation of yourself.
Yes, 100%. And that also is a product of, when I got straight A's when I was a kid, that's what I was supposed to do.
Yep.
It was, if I did something well and I'm like, Mom, Dad, look at this, they're like, that's the standard. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. I see my friends, my boy, who I love it. I hate him so much. I love him to death. Like, he's like, oh, I got a C. My mom got me a car. I'm like, what?
You got a what?
Like, I got a C on a progress report. My mom took me off the football team.
Yep.
She was like, nope. She was like, you ready? I was like, Mom, it's a progress report. I was like, I'll have the A in the end. I lost focus for a little bit. She's like, nope. So it's
wow.
It's this. I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
But when it was unhealthy was when I didn't. Now I'm doing it for me, but I didn't realize so long that it was actually this pressure and these expectations pushing me. So it was less me chasing this and more me running from
Yep.
that.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
running from failing and letting people down
Yep.
came across to people as me trying to be better than everybody.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm just sprinting for my life
Yep.
away from failing and letting my family and friends down.
Yeah.
And I just so happen to be passing you in the process of
Yeah.
that. But I
Yep.
couldn't care less about you.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about not letting them down. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
This is the GROUPEX podcast. So was choreography foreign to learn, and looking at the choreo notes and reading it and understanding? Did you grasp that concept relatively quickly? I mean, you'd obviously seen the masterclass filming and all that kind of stuff and watched the video. I suppose what I'm trying to ask is, how do you learn?
So I had to figure out, combat was easier than pump. Pump I struggled with immensely.
Yep.
Because combat I could equate to dance.
Yep.
A little bit more, and I'm very thankful that I have that internal metronome. Like, I have rhythm.
Yep.
And so if I'm listening to a song, I know what the beats are. Like,
Yeah.
I never learned about eighths and counts and stuff like
Yep.
that, but I know music
Yes.
intuitively.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
this is this, okay, and if it's this much combo, then I know this is probably going to change to this then. And so that was easy for me for combat.
Yeah.
I also never looked at the notes learning combat. It was always the video
Visual.
and the music.
Yeah.
Like, it was the video, and I needed to see it and hear it.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, cool. So now I know what that is. And the notes actually confused the hell out of me. So
Yep.
I was like, I can't do that. When I first started teaching pump, I tried to do the same thing and could not get it to stick.
Yep.
And I was like for months. And I used to, I hated Tony. I hated pump. And I didn't want to get certified on pump. Like, the Les Mills US made me. They
Yep.
were like, you have to have 2 programs. I was like, well, it ain't gonna be pump.
Yep.
They're like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
So I said, okay.
Okay.
And so I would like look at the class and I'd be trying to learn, and then I go and do it. I'm like, it's just not sticking. I couldn't figure out why. And then one day I looked at the notes and I was like, oh, this is a block. This is a block. This is a block. That makes sense.
Yep.
And so then I stopped watching the master classes for pump.
Yep.
And just look at the notes.
Isn't that interesting?
And so
yeah.
it's fascinating,
Yeah.
right? And I did that for 2016, 17, 18, probably 19. It probably wasn't until maybe like 2019, probably like 2020, like the last 2 years, where I've gotten to a point now where I don't have to like look at any notes.
Yep.
Like, I'll watch the class so
Yes.
I know what the moves are.
Yep.
And I can contextualize the music.
Yep.
And then once I have that, I can watch it once and listen, and I'm usually good. And if I don't know something, I'll look at the notes.
Yep.
Just to make sure.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's just for pump. Combat, I'll watch it.
Yep.
And listen to it, and I know it. But
Very-
pump, I'll watch it, like skip around. Like, I don't watch the whole thing,
Yep.
like, okay, that's this block,
Yep.
and then check out the notes a little bit. But pump it took me probably took me a solid year and a half to
Yep.
figure out how I
to
learn
learn.
pump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much similar to you
Fascinating.
with RPM. I would say I'm very similar to you in combat. I just listen to the music, man. You know where it's going to. I watch it once, listen to the music, and you know where it's going. You know the journey.
Yeah.
You know where it's going, all that kind of stuff. Pump. Well, hello a second. I was a PT for 12 years as well, and so when I look at pump at first, I was like, oh, hang on, three. Oh, I'm used to 4 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 12 or whatever we're doing, and
Yeah.
supersetting it. Hang on, this is all. What? This is oh, okay.
Yeah. just
3
make
1
any
4 4. What 2
sense,
singles?
man.
Holy whoa! Right. And how do I fit that in with the? I can't hear that beat in the music for that. Get me on a bike and pedaling. Yeah, man. That's like dancing to me, as you said with combat. It's
Yeah.
the dance, but the pump was the challenge, and I think I was very. I taught three classes of pump, and that was it. I was like, no, this program just isn't for me. You guys are
Right,
looking
like,
at me with a
what-
blank face, and you're not doing anything. There's no expression, and I'm giving you everything.
None.
Nah, screw you guys. No way.
None. Pump is like trying to talk to the pretty chick in the group at the
Yeah.
bar. Like, it's like it is literally like many have come, many have failed.
Yep.
Like, but you have to persist, because going from something like as something as dynamic as RPM or combat or
Yep.
tack or jam
Yep.
to pump.
Yeah.
And you're standing there.
Yep.
And everybody's like you said, stone face, and you're like, you hate me, but they're like, no, this is hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. That's it takes so long
Yeah.
to get over that. Because in the beginning, like you don't know what to say. There's all
Yeah.
this space. It's slow as hell.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
and don't teach pump right after you teach a combat, because it's like your heart
Yeah.
rate's 20.
Yeah.
You're like, well, like what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, come on, let's get to the back shots. Let's get to the back shots. And it's so I got to the point when I first got certified. And I taught a class, and I said, nah, I don't want to teach this. I was like, I'm gonna just do it at events. So I didn't have any classes,
Yep.
and I would just do it at events. But it was too stressful because I still didn't know how to learn pump.
Yes.
It was too stressful trying to learn for the event.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'll do one class a week. And
Yep.
I had one pump class that I taught, and I was just so I knew the choreography.
Yeah. You had somewhere to test it before you reckon. I love
Exactly.
that. That's great. Oh, brilliant. So the opportunity to, yeah, okay, let me ask you a question. Hey, you're in Australia, you're not a trainer and presenter, are you? You're not on the trainer presenter team here in Australia?
No, not here. No. Just I'm on the international team, so I still work for LMI, but not on the
train.
team.
Okay, so you're just a presenter for LMI. You're not actually a trainer.
Yes,
as such.
correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. How did that opportunity arise? How did you get to become on the with work for LMI and be a presenter? How did that? Tell us about that.
So I got certified in June 2015, and
you were still in the States at this stage?
Yep. So I was still in Augusta, Georgia.
Yep.
November of that same year, a woman who taught at the same gym I taught at, named Paula, she said she was an assessor. She's an assessor for, I think, pump and CX or core, I think maybe RPM, not sure.
Yep.
And she said, hey, Marlon, Les Mills US they're recruiting for their trainer presenter team. I'm considering, I would like to flag you to try out. Would you be interested in that? And I was like, what's a trainer presenter? And she's like, oh, well, like you would like do quarterlies. I'm like, what's a quarterly? Like I'd never been to any of that stuff.
Yep.
And so she showed me some videos. I'm like, okay. I'm like, that would be cool. I was like, yeah, sure. Like whatever, let's do it. And so she's like, okay, she flagged me. And I got an email in December saying, you've been flagged to submit a video. We asked you to submit a video of you teaching an entire class, and send it in. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So I had my GoPro, put it on the floor one day, taught Combat 65, start to finish, sent it in. Yep. I was like, all right, well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Later on in January, got an email saying, hey, we'd like you to invite you to boot camp. And I was like, oh, nice. I'm like, okay, cool. What's boot camp? Like, find out. And so that next April, I went to boot camp up in Maryland, and there was about 30, I think there was like 30, 35, 36 of us, something like that. And, you go through the day and they ask you to present a track, and then they give you like a portion of the training module to present.
Yep.
And they ended up picking, there was 2 boot camps, one in Chicago, one in Maryland. They ended up picking about like 16, 17 from both. So it was like 35 people in my class who got picked up. Found out in May 2016. I'm like, congratulations, you've been invited to onboard for the US team.
Yeah.
So I'm like, great. I'm like, that's cool. August, I found out I had to teach pump. So that was upsetting.
Yep.
But I got certified in pump. And then for the rest of that year, it was kind of like, I would shadow some events, and was just like sending videos in.
So it was a fairly long process.
Like sending probably like a year in total, like to like sending in videos and shadowing modules and co-presenting training modules, stuff like that. And January 2017, actually finally got onboarded.
Yep.
And then from there, man, honestly, like February 2017, a woman on the team broke her foot, and they were like, hey, Marlon, would you like to fill in for this quarterly? This is my first event ever. I'm like, absolutely. Like, hell yes. Yeah. Go to Texas, checked into the wrong hotel, instead of being late to the like bro, it was so bad. Checked into the wrong hotel. Was in the wrong city on the first night.
Oh man.
And ended up having like drive. I was doing like 130 miles an hour, like from Dallas to Fort Worth, like on one Saturday morning.
Oh, no.
And then that was February. Let's see, March. That's right. That was February. In March 2017, got an email from, well, Dave Kyle, who was the head trainer in the U.S. at the time. He said this was, I think this might have been, January, February. This is February. He was like, "Hey, I need a video of you teaching pump and combat ASAP. Make it good." I'm like, "What's ASAP? 2 weeks?" He was like, 48 hours. I'm like, "Oh my God."
Shit.
I'm like, "Okay." So I get a bunch of people together to film a class. I did pump and combat, sent it to him. Did my first event in February. March, I get an email from Dan Cohen. And he's like, "Hey, what's up, bro? Saw a video of you teaching combat. Would love to chat." I was like, whoa. I was like, "Is this Dan from the videos?" I was like, "Oh my goodness." Didn't hear anything. Like we were supposed to talk, didn't hear anything back. 2-3 weeks later, I get an email from Michelle Ferrier, who's the presenter handler in New Zealand. She was like, "We'd like to invite you to present Pump 104 Combat 74 in July, like second quarter filming." And I choked. I was in the bed. It was like 10:45 at night. I'm on my phone. I see this. I'm like, and I sit up, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is, this is crazy, because that, like, a few weeks before, I was talking to a few friends and they were like, would you ever want to be on the DVD? And I was like, oh man, I was like, you know what? It'd be really nice. I was like, it'd be a good goal. Maybe I could get on one before like Combat 100, or like by the time like Combat 100 comes, maybe maybe I could be on that one. Like, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Literally talked about that a few weeks prior. And then I'm like, wow. Wow. I've never even been out the country.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I get to go over there. And so I did my second event in April that year. It was back when we had super quarterlies.
Yeah.
Did that in April. And yeah, then May, June, I'm training my ass off, trying to get ready to go to filming. And this was my first filming, was actually the last filming. It was the last like 2-week filming. It's like filming used to be like longer back in the day, obviously. Yep. And I was there for 15 days.
Wow.
And it was like the jet lag was, I had never experienced that before. Like, you hear about it in movies, but I'm like, it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And then that second night, I woke up, I was like getting dressed, ready to go. It was 1:30 a.m. And I said, oh, I think I forgot to change my watch. And I'm like, oh, but that's not right. I'm like, damn, it's 1:30 in the morning. I was up until 7 a.m.
Oh,
cramping on stage, like stressed out, like, and this was like you didn't get the choreo or your tracks until you arrive. I didn't get it until I got there.
Yeah.
Got there, my bags were lost.
Oh.
So didn't have any clothes for the first 2 days. Get to practice the first day. They're like, yeah, okay, we're still working on allocations. Combat was the first program. Still working on allocations, but we're gonna do the class together in the mirror, like 50-60%.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. It's me, Aaron, Dan, Rach. We go into Centro 3. It's just the 4 of us in the mirror. They said 50-60%. I'm like, okay, cool. 2 tracks in, I'm like, y'all are going 100%. This is not 60%.
Yeah.
So me trying, and this is what I mean about people thinking I'm trying to be better than, but actually I'm running from this.
Yep.
I'm terrified of getting left behind. I'm like, they must think I'm out of shape. They must think I'm lazy. They must think I didn't come prepared. So I got to up the ante.
Yep.
So we're doing this every track in the class. It's like, okay, Dan's like, keep all the kicks low. Yep. Kicks over the top of my head. I'm like, you bastard. I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to keep up with him.
Yeah.
Aaron's going hard. Rach is going hard. And we're just, by the time we get done, Well, again, Marlon's MO. I'm about to shit on myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm about to. I am literally clenching my butt cheeks. I'm like, I am so tired.
Yeah.
I'm about to mess
Yeah.
myself. Um, so that was day one. That was day one of practice, and I'm like,
Can I go home and sleep
oh
now?
my god. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this is gonna be treacherous. Um, and so get through the long filming weeks are satisfying because you get to that, you're overwhelmed, you're upset, you're dejected, you're disencouraged, you hate yourself, you're a piece of shit, and then you kind of slowly start to like
Building back up again.
yeah,
Yeah.
like come out of the trench,
Yep.
and then if you hit it right, you peak on the day, and
Yep.
that's exactly what happened for me.
Yep.
And then after filming, we're at the presenter dinner, and I'm sitting in between Kylie and Jackie Mills, and Kylie's like, hey Em, so how do you think film went? I was like, yeah, I had fun. And she was like, Jackie and I we want you to be an ambassador. And I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh, well, you would film regularly, like you would come and do 2 to 4 filmings a year, and you do events and stuff like that, kind of like what Ben and Aaron and Reagan do. Are you familiar with them? Like familiar with that at all? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, like, would I get paid? And they're like, yeah, like, yeah, of course, like you get paid. And I'm like, well, how often do I have to travel? Well, like you say, two filmings a year, so probably like 4 to 6 weeks. And in my head, I'm like, people in the U.S. only get 2 weeks of leave a year,
Yep.
so I don't know. So I don't know how I'm
Wow.
going to make that work. So
Yeah.
it's like I either got to do this or work.
Yep.
And I just went through the process of getting a promotion at work. I was working at the NSA, and I was supposed to start this. I was supposed to move to Maryland, and this was July 2017. I was supposed to move to Maryland in August, September, and start this job. Like it was a huge deal. Like I had gotten a full scope polygraph, like a top secret clearance, like all this stuff. And now there's this, and I'm like, well, I can't do both. And so July and August, I'm like, I asked my mom, I talked to Dave, the head trainer, I talked to friends. I'm like, what should I do? And Dave said he was like, he was like the NSA, he was like job, he was like work, he was like it'll always be there.
Yeah. Yep.
He was like, but you won't always have an opportunity to do something like this. And he was like, so it'd be, just follow your heart. I asked my mom, and she said the same thing. She was like, you're always going to be able to find a job.
Yeah. Yep.
And she was like, just think about, what are you missing out on if you leave the NSA? And I was like, well, the money. And she's like, what else? I'm like, 4 computer screens in a basement in Maryland. And she's like, exactly. So I was like, all right. And so my gym had been open for a year at that point. And I was like, well, I can go back to personal training.
Yep.
And kind of do that to, help make ends meet in between trainings and modules and stuff like that, and filmings. And so I said yes. And so I became an ambassador. I got officially offered the position. I think it was November 2017. And yeah, and now I live in Felicity, and I met her in July 2017, but we hit it off in January 2018.
Yep.
And I moved here July 2018, and now I've been here for 4 years.
This is the GROUPEX podcast. Mate, on that, just you mentioned your gym. You mentioned it twice now. Do you still have your gym? Are you still part of your gym back in the States?
Yeah. We opened the gym in January 16th, 2016.
And what's the gym called?
It's called I3 Strength and Performance. It's in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I want anyone that's listening, go and suss it out. And if you're over there, if you haven't seen it, please pop yourself in and go and have a look. But any of the guys here from Aussie as well, if you're heading over there, make sure you go and suss it out. Go and have a look.
She is an absolute work of art.
Yep.
The universe is fascinating sometimes, but things worked out to where we were able to build the gym exactly how we wanted it to. It's black and red, and it's grunge, rugged.
Yep.
Open, garage doors, big fans and stuff like that. Chains, deadlift platforms, monoliths. Like we got like 30 different types of bars, 200-pound dumbbells. Like it's one of those places.
Yeah.
Shirt on, shirt off, loud music. Doesn't matter. Chalk, no chalk. Like no judgment.
Yep.
It's a really cool
train
place,
and have fun.
Cool place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
How often do you get back there? How often are you back there at the moment too?
So I've been back since I moved. I've been back. I've been back 3 times.
Okay.
Like whenever I go back to the States, not this last time because I didn't have time, but I try and always stop. I try and always make sure I work Georgia into it
Yep.
so I can get to the gym.
Yeah.
Just because I mean, it changed who I am. It changed my life. Like
Yeah.
such a big part of me. So I really try. I love going to see it.
Sweet. Nice to know. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. So talk to me about your first filming leading up to first filming. You said it was, that 2 week sort of period. Give me if you can cast your mind back to 5 minutes before going on stage.
Oh man.
Had you already been to the bathroom?
Yeah. Yeah.
Had you spent the previous 30 minutes in the bathroom?
I probably 45.
Yeah.
It's funny because the same thing still happens to me every filming. 5 minutes before filming, I forget how to stand. I forget what the music sounds like.
Yep.
I forget what track I'm doing. I forget the moves, the core, like I forget everything. Like literally to the point where like I'm on stage and I'm like trying to remember how to stand up straight. Like I'm like, okay, so like you do it like this, and okay, is that right? And it's this just very bizarre it's like this out of body experience. Like I have to actively do everything. Like how when you're sick, like you never think about when you swallow, like when during the day. Like but when you're sick, you're like you're aware, you're like, okay, like so it's that feeling, but it's everything head to toe. I'm like, okay, like where's my head? Like where are my feet? Like are my feet normally outside of my hips, or if I'm normal, are they inside of my hips, or are they under my hips? Like everything. Like it's so 5 minutes before filming, like we filmed. Yeah, it was Combat was first. From Combat first. Or was it? I think we filmed Pump first. And I just remember thinking, like, I was so full of adrenaline, like the weights didn't feel the same.
Yep.
Like I couldn't. I had no grasp on reality.
Yep.
Like I was like, I was struggling to ground myself. Like nothing felt like how it feels when I'm teaching class and we're practicing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, and I know now that it's just the massive amounts of adrenaline. That are just pumping through my body, and that it only lasts about 20-25 minutes.
Yep.
And then you crash.
Yep.
Because the bicep track for that release. Oh man, it was. I should teach that on Monday. It was. I'm still bad at biceps. I've always been bad at biceps. I'm still terrible at it. But Ben was teaching it, and I remember about halfway through the second block, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm like, my arms are gonna blow. I'm not gonna make it. And I'm kind of starting to like strain the wing back a little bit. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, but they'll edit all of this out. It's fine.
Yeah.
Then we go. There's two blocks at the bar, 2 blocks at the plate. Plate block. I'm like, okay, thank goodness. Make it to the first set of plates. Go. I think I have the 5 kilos. All right, we're fine. Then the second block, Glenn picks up. I think he picks up 7.5 kilos or 10 kilo plates, and I'm like, and he looks at me, and he's like, I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay. Ben picks him up. Glenn picks him up. I'm like, I'm not about to be the only guy up here.
Yeah.
Like with the 5 kilos. Yeah. So I'm picking him up. And I'm up there doing the limbo bicep curl. Like I am like leaning all the way back. But in my head, I'm like, it's fine. They're going to edit out. They didn't edit any of it out. I'm on there swinging plates, grunting. I'm like, please, desperate. I'm like, you bastards. I'm like y'all didn't edit any of it out. And so Pump was like Pump, but after once we got to track 10, I remember having this moment. Actually, this was during filming week. Actually, this moment we were doing the cool down, and we were doing a stretch, and I remember sitting there, and I'm in Studio One, and I'm looking out, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, I'm here in New Zealand filming Pump. I'm like, this is really cool. Yes. I'm like, this is. it's amazing. I'm like, I can't believe that I am actually here.
Yep.
And when we went to at filming, like, when we got done with the cool down, it was just this really just this really exhilarating feeling. Like I was like, this was like wow, like that actually just happened.
Yep.
Then we, like the combo tracks are always a lot less. There's a lot less pressure. Like it's just like, okay, we've done the big class, now to the combo tracks, and it was fun. And then combat, having done pump first helped with combat a lot. Um, but with combat, there's so much there's so much more to do and say.
Yeah.
Like you
Yep.
don't have time, and so you really combat. I always tell people you got to know what you're doing, when you're supposed to do it, before you have to do it, while you're doing something else,
Yep.
talking about what you're going to do
Yep.
next. Like, and so it's like there's all these things going
Structure,
on.
man. Structure.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like it's all
Yes.
these things going on, and so you really got to be on it, especially when you got five cameras flying around,
Yeah.
and you got
Yep.
this pressure of, I know people mess up, but I don't want it to be me that
Yeah.
messes up. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like not on my first one.
Yeah.
I want to make sure this goes as smoothly as possible.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, yeah, combat ended up being absolutely amazing. Like it was just, I remember getting done and thinking like, and this is my first one, so it's my first one. We get done with class, people are going up to Rach, going up to Dan, going up to Aaron, like, can we get a picture? Can we get a picture? And I was kind of standing there like I'm chilling, and
Yep.
I had like my friend came up to me, she's like, you did amazing. I'm like, thanks so much. Talk to another person and then go to my business.
Yep.
And same thing in pump.
Yep.
Like, and I always like thinking about that because it's again everything is relative, but it's kind of like it just reminds me, like, remember what it was like, when you first came, like your
Yep.
first time here.
Yep.
Nobody was stopping you in the street.
Yep.
Nobody was saying, hey, Marlon. People like, what's your name, Marlon? Can you say that again? Marlon. What was it? One
What?
more time?
Yep.
It's Marlon.
Yep.
Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
it's like having that is it's really good perspective. I mean, and that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I got certified 6 years ago.
Yep. Yep.
So it's or 7 years ago. So I've really had a unique experience because timing and opportunity lined up so soon after I got certified,
Yeah.
to where I've been doing this. I got certified 7 years ago, and I've been presenting for 6 years.
Yep. Yep.
And I
Yep.
did my first filming. I've been filming for 5 years, so it's
Yes.
like the majority of my career
Yep.
has been at that level.
Yeah.
Or really all of my career, actually, because I didn't get on the team until 2017. That's when I went to film. But it's just, I like to remember those experiences in
Yeah.
the beginning, but I also don't discount how hard I worked.
Yes. Yeah.
In the beginning as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It's. Thanks for sharing too. By the way, I should say thank you for sharing,
Yeah,
because
of course.
that's raw, honest, and real. Yeah. When looking
Yeah,
at and sharing that with you, you told a great story there, because my brain pictured you through all of that. Yeah, absolutely everything you just
yeah,
said. I was there with you as you were going through that. What I'm trying to get at is that the emotion that you felt, or the experience you had finishing filming, everyone reaching up to Rach and Dan and having that moment, and you sort of to the side of the stage there, is very humbling, and I suppose puts everything into perspective in a big way. Yeah. Now,
yeah.
these days, when you do a filming, or when you're doing a presentation at a quarterly workshop, or like the last big thing you're over in LA for, was it LA?
New Orleans. Yeah.
New Orleans. So
New
yeah.
Orleans.
So when you're over
Yeah.
there, I'm assuming, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but at the end of a class, people would have been coming up to you and going, hey, and wanting photos and all of that kind of stuff with you.
Night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day.
How do you deal with that as well? Because coming from a very a humbled beginning, where, as you were saying just a second ago, you didn't have that, and it's obviously very different. How do you deal with it now? How is that experience for you?
I never, so unless I literally have to because of time, I never say no to a picture.
Yep.
Um, I try and make myself as available as possible, for as many people as possible.
Yep.
This last event was it was insane. I had two handlers with like who would escort me around. Um, And I'd say, I need to go back to my room. Oh, like, do you need us to escort you? And I'd say, no. I'm like, no, like, I'm not Beyonce. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need an escort. Like,
Yep.
I can make it over there.
Yep.
But I walk into the lobby, and 35 seconds later, there's a line of 50 people, and I'm taking pictures, and
Yep.
I haven't gotten to my room
You
yet.
haven't
So
got.
the
Yeah.
handlers will find out about it, and they'd have to come and,
Yep.
one person will stand at the front, help take pictures. Other person will cut the line off so I could leave.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and that happened everywhere I went. Like, I
Yep.
tried to go to the after party and couldn't get in because I was taking pictures. And I don't say that in any other way other than to express to people um how serious I am when I say
Yep.
I don't say no
Yeah.
to any pictures.
Yeah.
And that's not because it's it's not because, well, first of all, it would be like to say I don't enjoy it, because obviously it's flattering. Like,
Yes.
of course
Of
it's
course it
flattering.
is. Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and because also, how many people in your life will we know that get to say that people want to have their picture taken with them?
Yep.
So it's like, of course, like, I don't want to be the, no, I'm too busy now. And then
Yeah.
10 years from now, when I'm washed, or 5 years from when I'm washed
Yep.
up, I'm like, dang, I wish I would have taken more
Yep.
pictures. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, but then
It
also,
shows, I believe it shows respect for those
yeah,
people as well, man. It shows respect for you, what you do, and you realize that you are connecting with people, en masse, man. There's thousands upon thousands of people that will believe they know you even though they don't know you.
yeah,
Yep. And to have
yeah,
a photo with
absolutely.
them, that makes their day. That's the butterfly
Yeah,
effect, as I had a chat to Matt Thraxton about, is that you can have a photo with someone that you're like, yeah, man, cool, this is great, and be there and be present in that moment having the photo. That could
yeah,
change someone's life completely by having that moment.
completely.
And if you didn't, as you were just saying, if you didn't in 5 or 10 years down the track, you're like, oh damn,
Yeah,
why didn't I? Why was
completely.
I arrogant, or why was I ignorant in that regard? What's a photo?
Yeah,
It's not going to zap my
exactly.
soul. It's going
And
to be okay.
yeah, it's. I think you hit the nail on the head. For me, it's about respect. If somebody, it's respect. People ask, so like, oh, how does it feel? I don't like to use the word humbling, but it's very, um what's the word I used when I was there? It's very, um enlightening isn't quite strong enough,
Yep.
but it's almost like, wow, people are listening to what you say.
Yeah.
People care and respect you enough, and admire you to the point where they would like to have their picture taken with you. And so putting flattery and whatever arrogance, like all that stuff aside, for me, not being ignorant of the fact that, yes, it's flattering for me, and I do get enjoyment out of it, but it's respecting this person enough, and respecting their journey, and their, like,
Yes.
what they've gotten from me and
Yeah.
their experience in their life. This woman, this is the most fascinating story, Tony. So I'm at Les Mills Live in New Orleans. There's 2,500 people there for that event in New Orleans, and me and my mom are walking to Bill Street. This was the day before the event, and we walked past Foot Locker, and we got past the store, and I was like, actually, I want to go in there and I want to see if they have these shoes. I walk in, and this woman stops in her tracks, and she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, she's like, have this look in her face. And I'm like, she's like, she was like looking at me, and I'm like, she's like, are you Marlon? And I couldn't hear her. I'm like, oh no, thank you. I don't need any help. And she's like, she takes her mask off. She's like, are you Marlon Woods? And I was like, yeah. And she starts crying. And I'm like, oh, are you here for the event? And she's like, no, I'm not. She was like, I'm from Greece, and we're here on vacation. We're doing like LA, Miami, we're in New Orleans, and we leave for New York tomorrow. And I saw in your story that you said you were going to be here today. And I was like, wow, I wish I could see him. I've been doing class with you on Listeners on Demand every day for 2 years. I only pick your classes, and for every day for 2 hours, I work out with you. And here you are in front of me.
Wow.
And when I started to tear up because of the sheer, just serendipity. Just like,
Yeah.
what are the odds that at that time I walked past the store
Yeah.
and was like, actually, I want to go
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah.
And this woman, not from Miami, not from Ohio,
Yeah.
from
From
Greece,
Greece.
like, is on the other side of the world and is in the store at the same time. And she just so happens to do classes with me every day. She's been doing it for 2 years. Every day, and she sees me there.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just have to, like, can we please have a picture? I'm sorry, I'm shaking. Like, can you take
Goosebumps,
a
man.
picture for me? It's just like, I get, like, when I think about that, I'm just, and for the humility and the fear
Yep.
that comes over me, because, get cliche here, get Uncle Ben, but with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And, like, to know that what you say and do impacts people that much,
Yeah.
it's honestly terrifying, because it's like, wow, like, you feel like, it's like, you have to take a lot more. You have to take, and I take very seriously what I do, but it's like, you really have to take this, because people are listening.
Yep.
People are listening. The number of people who came to me, said, "You saved my life through COVID. I lost a loved one. I lost a significant other. I thought about taking my own life. Like it was your post or you on the master class that helped me. Like, that kind of stuff,
Yep.
fucking matters, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like that is
Yes.
not to be taken lightly
Yeah.
at all. So, like, knowing and always being acutely aware of what it was like, watching Dan and Rach in their element, and watch people go up to them, and just how many exponentially more people have been touched like that by Dan, by
Yeah.
Rach, by Glenn, by Kylie, by Aaron, because they've been doing it for so much longer.
Yep.
And seeing the respect and adoration and admiration people have for them, and to see now that now I get to receive that as well. It's nothing short of one of the best and scariest feelings
Yeah.
in the world. To what I want to make sure, like, when people say, I message on Instagram, my heart drops. I'm like, did I reply? Did I reply?
Yep.
Did I reply? Did I
Yep.
see the message? Did I see the message? And they're like, yeah, you replied. I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God, because it's not because I don't want to,
Yep.
but it's because I don't see them. I
Yeah.
don't get to all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
getting to take pictures with people, and, like you said, I probably took 500 pictures that weekend.
Yeah.
But 500 people took one picture.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
Yep.
it's that reminder perspective. So, to a very long-winded answer to your question, how it feels is, it's exhilarating,
Yep.
but scary in a way, because now I bear that burden in
Yep.
a
Yeah.
loose sense of the word
Yep.
as well.
Yep. This is the GROUPEX podcast. Mate, I'm going to say right now, I hope that the lady you ran into, the lady from Greece, does listen to this. And
I would love to connect with her,
yeah,
man.
mate, if she's listening and she can reach out in some way, please do so. Let's try and make that happen. But mate, you're a unique individual, yeah, and I appreciate that story. I appreciate that, because you're as you said, you're in that position. You know, you're not a rude person. You can't be rude. You know, what has been now an hour been chatting to you, and I know straight up that there's no chance you turn around and go, "Nah, I'm not having a photo. I'm too busy for this shit." Are you kidding me? Hello, are you people listening to this? This is Marlon. There's no chance this guy could ever say or do something like that, man. You are too much of a genuine individual for that.
I told them that, actually, before the event. I posted. I said, because I know how people are. I said, do not be afraid to ask for a picture.
Yeah.
I said, if you
I read
see
that
me,
post. I read that
you
one.
see me,
Yeah.
ask for the picture.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because one woman actually messaged me on Instagram, or she commented, replied to a story or something after the event. And she said, two people, one guy, actually, I was in the elevator with him, and I saw he had on the lanyard, and he saw I had on one. He was like, are you here for the event? I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you taking the class? I was like, I was like, actually, no, I teach pump and combat and tone. He was like, okay, cool. I'll see you there. I'm like, yeah, no doubt. And then another woman I was in the elevator with, I don't even remember who, but she messaged me after, and she was like, I was in the elevator with you. And I was like, I should have asked for the picture. I'm so upset, because I was just terrified. And I'm like, we got to get the picture. And the guy messaged me, and he was like, hey, do you remember talking to me in the elevator? I asked you if you were taking class, and you said you teach pump, combat, and tone. I was like, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. It was Friday night. And he was like, why the fuck didn't you tell me who you were?
It's like, yeah, don't you know who I am?
I said, I said, I said you didn't. I said you didn't ask. Like, I
Yeah,
was just.
exactly,
I'm just
man.
like I teach pumping combat.
Yeah,
I see you there tomorrow.
yeah.
It's like because like Les Mills is this. It's a really unique niche. Like people, my friends and stuff like that. They're like, oh, you're famous, and I'm
Yeah,
like, wait a second.
yeah,
I'm like, listen, Les Mills is a very small piece of the world.
yeah,
There's probably like, what do you say, like in terms of instructors and consumers, let's call it let's call it 3 million people in the
yep,
world like know what
yep,
Les Mills is.
yep,
And of those 3 million people, let's say 1.5 would
yeah,
know who I was if they
yeah,
looked at my face, right?
yep,
So it's
yep.
like within in this microcosm, the majority of people know me. But even then, that's just because the majority of people teach pump and combat. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yep,
Like so that's
yep,
the because
yep.
if I was a jam presenter, it'd be
Yeah,
it wouldn't be as many people.
yeah,
Um, so you're in this flux of constantly when you're doing events and stuff like that, you're being flattered and your people asking for pictures, but then at the same time, people have no idea what Les Mills is.
yes,
You know what I mean?
yes,
So it's like
yeah,
you're
yeah,
so I never assume. Like
yeah,
I'm never because first selfishly I don't want to be embarrassed. Like
yes,
I don't want to
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'll do blah blah blah. And they're like,
Exactly. It's not that whole, as I said,
okay.
you're not walking around going, hey, man, you know who I am. I'm like, that's not you.
Exactly.
You were in a lift with a guy, and I was like, yeah, man, I teach. Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing I love about you. Yeah, you're not a show pony. You are just you
No,
being you,
no,
doing you, and
no.
that's the I think that's the relatable thing for a lot of
Yeah,
people. Yeah, is that they
yeah,
they will idolize you no matter what. All people are going to have that when you're in the position that you're in, but
yeah,
you're very much just you of, you know what, yeah, want a photo, yeah, cool, okay, yeah,
yeah. Of course,
yeah.
always, man, always.
I think that the arrogance and attitude you don't have, you don't, and I'm not saying that anyone
Yeah,
else does, but I'm just saying that
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that just doesn't exist. I mean,
yeah,
that's not not possible.
yeah. And
So
that's. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say with the is it just pump and combat that you're doing at the moment, or are you doing other programs too?
Yeah, I was teaching balance for a little while before
Okay.
lockdown.
Yep.
But then after lockdown, I dropped some classes and I dropped it was a combat balance double. So I dropped that. But actually, just this week is funny. As I was actually thinking about, oh, maybe I should start teaching balance again.
Yep.
But right now, just pump and combat.
Yep. And where are you teaching at the moment? You're in Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah, I just teach at Bondi Westfield on Monday nights.
Okay. At Fitness First.
Fitness
Yeah.
first. Yeah,
Yeah.
fitness first.
Yeah.
Bondi Westfield. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Pump at 5:15, combat at 6:15.
Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant. And what stuff are you doing with Les Mills International? What stuff is on the cards for you for the future for Les Mills International in your ambassador role? Is it still just as is and continuing on? Is there changes happening there that you can maybe allude to?
Yeah, well, funny you asked. That actually changes in the opposite direction. I've actually, this year I realized that I needed to. I lost sight of why I love doing what I do. I'm a very ambitious person, and I was just trying to get my hands into too many pies.
Yep.
And so I was doing music, I was doing choreography, I was interested in, developing these programs and trying to do this and trying to do that. And all of that. And I was, working in diversity, equity, and inclusion with Les Mills, and I was working with Les Mills Plus, like the on demand
Yeah. Yeah.
market, like doing stuff with them direct to consumer. But all of that was kind of clouding, and I was losing sight of presenting and being on stage. And so actually a few months ago, I literally said, I was like, I don't want to do anything except present pump and present combat.
Awesome.
And that's for me, I needed to pull back to ensure longevity,
Totally respect that, mate.
to make it more
Yeah.
sustainable for me. So rather than, it's hard. Like, you want to be in on this conversation, you want to be a part of this, you want to be behind the scenes here. Like, as cool as all that is, it's just not for me.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? Let me just get back to that kid-like excitement
Yep.
of loving presenting pump and combat.
Yep.
And I just want to do that. And I want to show up and I want to be the best pump and combat presenter in the world. Like
Yep.
whenever I go.
Yep.
And last round, July round was the first time, like after I had that conversation with Diana and Jackie and Kylie. Um, the last round was just it felt phenomenal. Like
Yep.
I'm really, for those listening, I'm really fascinated to see what you think about Pump 123 and Combat 93, because I felt like the old me, but 5 years better.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 5 years
Yeah.
experience better, but that old, like, pure, just very light version of me, like without like anything else bogging me down and weighing me down.
Yeah.
It's been quite freeing.
I was going to ask you what's your why, but you've answered it.
Yeah, it is. I want to use the stage to let people. I want to be able to let people know I love them, I see them, and they're not alone.
Yeah.
That's what. And
Yeah.
if I have other stuff going on in my head, if I'm not 100% locked in and present, I don't have the bandwidth or capacity to show
So,
you that when I'm teaching.
yeah.
And so that's why I work so hard to take care of things like choreography and technique and all of that, so that when I'm on stage, you're getting 100% of me, and I'm not
Yeah.
thinking about the other stuff.
Yeah.
And so dropping everything else allowed me to dedicate everything I have
Yep.
to that,
Yep.
to my why.
No, I love that. I think that's it. Yeah, there's a couple of questions which I have. Obviously, when I do these, I write questions down. I won't give them to you, but I'll give myself a bit of a roadmap on where I want to take
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah, and there was what is your why from that kind of thing, but it was also what does the future hold, and you've nailed both of those in what you've just said. Then so I appreciate that as well, because it's with all of these I try and give the listeners an insight to you, but also allow you to be you in those responses as well, and not sort of push you, which is
sure.
why I won't ever give you a list of questions or give my guests a list of questions, say, here, these are the ones I'm going to ask, because you'll prepare too much. And it's not, and I hate the word authentic because it's used far too much at the moment. The authenticity and nuance to me are two words that I sort of go, oh, I cringe when I hear, but I get that they're used, but they're two words that I go, no, just let's use a different word. Same meaning, but different word, But it's I appreciate it, because what I get when I'm chatting to everybody, and what I've gotten for you tonight is the real honest truth in those answers. And there's no bullshit around what you've said at all. It's straight up, I appreciate that so much, because it's, as I said, I've got a roadmap of where I'm going to take you, but you've answered most of that stuff that I was going to throw at you. There's only a couple more questions I've got that I really wanted to throw your way, if you're cool for them.
Yeah, of course.
With relation to giving advice to instructors, now we spoke about feedback earlier on, and not giving feedback on the feedback type stuff, but what bit of advice could you give to instructors that might be listening who want to improve on what they're doing? How would you suggest going about them improving stuff?
First, I'd ask them why they want to improve. Why do you want to improve? And to be frank, if that answer is not genuinely because you want to be better for those participants you teach to every week, then you got to reassess.
Yep.
And the reason is because if it's not that, everything else, it won't give you enough juice to get through the amount of hard work that is required to improve.
Yep.
So people say, I want to get better. How much better do you want to get? Okay, I want to get a lot better. Okay, why do you want to get a lot better? Because I want to be on the team. Okay, wanting to be on the team is enough juice to make you a little better, but not a lot. And I saw this thing a few years ago, and I tell this to people often. You got three choices. You got to pick two. You want it to be good, you want it to be fast, or you want it to be cheap. If you want it to be good and cheap, it's not going to be fast.
Yep.
If you want it to be fast and cheap, it's not going to be good.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want it to be cheap and fast. You like so it's about and if you want it to be good and fast, it's not going to be cheap. So it's like people say, I want to get better. And there are some people who genuinely want to get better.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you want to get better, like I tell people all the time, if you want to get better, let me know when we can get in the mirror, and we get in the mirror for 2 hours and film ourselves, and we'll take it from there.
Yep.
But people don't want to do that much work.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you say, okay, like, what can I do to get better? First and foremost, ask yourself why you want to get better. My thing is, if I'm not excited to teach my Monday night class, I've lost perspective.
Yeah.
No matter
Yep.
where I am in the world,
Yep.
no matter how big the stage, no matter how many thousands of people, if I'm not excited to teach that class, because the big stages don't change the world.
Yep.
The small stages do.
I'm
You do the
so
big
grateful
stage,
you've said that. Yeah.
you like you do the big stage once a year,
Yep.
maybe.
Yep.
But that small stage, that it might be 6 people at 7 a.m. in the morning in the cycle studio. It might be 15 people at lunch. It might be 30 people in the evenings. But those 30 people who come to your class every week, that is the law of momentum. That is the law of compounding interest. Every week they see you, they get a little bit better. They get a little more positive. They get a little more motivated to change people in their lives. And when they go to their circles and they change them, that's what changes.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself why you want to get better. And when you have the answer to that, that tells you, okay, how hard you're willing to work.
Yeah. Yep. No, I appreciate that. It's that same topic has been in the conversation, the last 4 episodes that I've had with trainers and presenters, here in Australia from the Australian team, that the people you teach to on a regular basis are the ones that mean so much. Yeah. And it's nice to hear what you just said then, is that, that Monday or Tuesday night or whatever night it is that you teach, those guys in that class are more important than 4 times a year when you're presenting. Because they rock up every single week. They need the best of you every single week. Every moment you walk into that room, you need to be better than when you're on the DVD, because they're the ones that come and they're the ones that you're impacting every single time.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong, that's not to say that when you go and do your quarterlies that you can slacken off. You need to be the best in order to be the best for the best that are out there, i.e. the instructors, to give them the level they need to be able to go back into their classes at any stage and deliver the best experience they can, because those 20, 30, 15, 5, however many people are in front of you are the ones that we're affecting. They're the ones whose lives we're changing from doing what we're doing.
Yes. Yes. I could not have put it any better. That weekly class is the tangible difference we can make. Those people that come every week. Spot on, Tony. Spot on.
This is the GROUPEX podcast. Is there anything that you want to bring up? Is there any topics you want to get out there to trainers and presenters, or anyone that may be listening yourself, that I haven't brought up?
I love what I do. I love what I do. I love what Group Fitness does for people. But a lot of people listening to this may be on teams. They may be, they might just be an instructor at a club. You might even just be, a participant thinking about becoming an instructor. I just want to talk about culture for just briefly.
Yep.
Because I think it's a real thing we deal with a lot in this industry in general, like just in fitness in general, gym culture, group fitness culture, all of it. And just want people to not don't get sucked, do your best not to get sucked into negativity, judgment, toxicity, and just do your best to keep focused on what we do, which is what we do on the stage and what we do for our participants. And often what people leave jobs, regardless of the industry, whatever it is, corporate America, government, whatever, people leave more often than not because of people. They don't leave because of they don't leave because of what we're doing. Every instructor presenter in the world, we love teaching. We love teaching. And so I guess I just want people to, what I've had an excellent lesson in this year in particular, just because of some things that have been going on, is letting go of anger, letting go of resentment, letting go of like keeping score, just refocusing in on what you love doing. And so if you are listening and you feel like you're feeling a bit jaded, disenfranchised, or frustrated, like just take a few days, like, and just like remind yourself why you started doing what we're doing. That's why I love doing like stuff like this,
Yeah.
because it takes me back to what it was like in the beginning. And I still work hard, I still film myself, I still critique myself, but like that excitement of the new release just dropped. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna order pizza, and I'm gonna watch the Les Mills release for fun on a Friday night, bro. Like, come on, man. What a loser! What a loser! You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
man.
Just like,
Totally.
But
Yep.
the purity, the purity that's involved in that, and that's what I lost. I lost sight of that.
Yep.
For a little while, and so getting back to that for me, and seeing how that's reinvigorated me, and how much better filming felt, how much better I feel. I just want to share with people what I have, like, I kind of lost sight of that for a little while, and now I'm back to my roots.
Yep.
And it feels so good when you get to that point, because you're back to just that childish excitement about like what we do, and you're just reminded of, honestly, like, even if you're not doing the big events, like, you teach that class every week. People are coming to you, they're giving their time, they're leaving work, they're trying to get into class, they know your name, they're in their spot, they're on their bike to get their weekly dose of you, or their daily dose of you.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. I don't care on what scale. We can barely get people to respond to our message on Instagram, or get people to like our pictures, or get people to follow us. Like, people in real life come to you every week.
Yeah. Yes.
To give you their time. It's not just a double tap and a swipe. It's like, I'm here with you for an hour, listening to your every beck and whim. Like, I'm here to get better with you.
Yeah.
So it's like, just, I guess if there's anything I really wanted to bring, it's just reminding us to come back to why we started.
Yep.
Nobody started this because they wanted to be on the DVDs. Nobody started this because they wanted to be on stage in front of thousands. Like, I started this because I was on a Stairmaster, and I was like, wow, like, I want to teach that class. And and I say that to say that my story wasn't inspirational. It wasn't. It's not, oh, I was downtrodden in the street and I saw this combat instructor, that, like, it's nothing. And there's nothing wrong with having stories like that.
Yes. Yeah.
My story was extremely unflattering, not sexy at all.
Yeah. Yep.
But that led to where I am now.
Yeah.
And what filled in the gaps was a pure passion for what we do, which is teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching. That's what we do. We teach, we motivate, we educate, we inspire. And if we can remember that, all the other stuff comes second to that. The events, the pictures, the videos, the photo shoots, the video shoots, the flights, the hotels, the events, all of that, it all comes second to teaching.
Yeah.
Like, so if we can podcast by podcast, listener by listener, day by day, if we can like come back to that, and if you do feel like you're in a place where like you're kind of aloof and you're feeling frustrated or agitated, just like come back to that, and I'd be interested to see how you fare.
Mate, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for coming and spending an hour and a half of your nights on Friday to chat with me, mate. I've greatly,
for sure, man, it's my pleasure.
No, I've greatly appreciated getting to know you better. I know you through Rach, through Felicity, and I think we might have chatted once before, 2 or 3 years ago or whatever. But mate, I really, really appreciate your honesty and your down to earth, candid chat with this and sharing your story. I appreciate the
opportunity, man.
Thank you so much.